All right, and we should be live, finally. So, about 7 minutes past 10 a.m. here. I had planned on starting streaming at 10 a.m., but I was having some issues with my camera. For some reason, I turned on my camera this morning, and I was not getting any kind of picture on the preview display. Wasn't getting any output in OBS. Not sure what the problem was. I unplugged all the cords, the AC adapter and everything. Finally got it working. I'm not sure what the problem was. I haven't really done anything with it in weeks, so it's just been sitting on a tripod, plugged in. So, alright, looks like we've got a few people here. So we've got Andy, User, Big Pod, Climby, Chris, how you doing? Alright, is everybody good this morning? No technical issues other than mine?
I'm okay.
Alright, good to hear. Alright, so this will be another free and open chat Sunday. By the way, I think next Sunday, what I'm going to do is I'll do a patrons only chat next Sunday. So, I need to do another one of those. Also, regarding the channel, I don't think I'm going to... I'm sorry, Chris?
Oh, we got a loop going here.
Yeah, make sure anybody... you got earbuds on. Make sure you... if you're not wearing earphones, we're going to get some weird feedback.
I got headphones on, so...
We're going to get some weird
Maybe you
feedback.
have what is it called? A browser open with stream.
Yeah, make
Because
sure
because I have no feedback here, no loop.
Yeah. And I just checked out the stream
Open
here on my end.
with stream.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, make sure, because Zoom is, of course, going to give you audio. The stream is going to give you audio, too. So mute the stream if you're watching it in the browser. All right. So, yeah, so I just sat down here about, I don't know, 9:45, and I assumed all my stuff was going to work. So I was just ready to go. And I sat down, ready to click start streaming, and no picture, no camera, no video. It's like, okay, this is great. I love it when I, really don't get here early and, things just don't work. It's usually the audio. Today it was the video. So I guess I need to plan on being in this seat like a half hour early before these things, just in case. But it's Linux. You guys know. Linux should hurt a little bit. That's my saying. And it definitely does. I was going to say, yeah, so next Sunday's chat, patrons only, Thursday's taking into account episode will not happen this week. I won't be in town. I'll be out of state all day Thursday. Won't be near a computer, so I won't record that. I could record it early, but I'm going to be so tied up this week recording some other videos. All the Ubuntu 18.10 releases come out this week. I got to get those recorded. So I just won't do taking into account this week. Because those distro releases, especially the Ubuntu releases and then the Fedora release right after that, they're going to get 50 times more views than the taking into account episode would anyway. So we'll just take a week off from that. Also, it looks like Elementary is getting close to releasing. Have you guys checked out the Elementary website the last couple of days?
Looks too much like a Mac that I've avoided it.
Yeah, their website now has a countdown. If you go to elementary.io, it has a counter. Here, I'll post a link to the Elementary website in the chat for those in the chat. But now we have a little countdown going. Not exactly sure. I'm assuming it says 2 days, 3 hours or something. So, I don't know. We're getting close. So, any of you guys are going to check out any of the 18.10 releases when it comes out Thursday?
I probably will check out the Budgie and the standard one, the mainline.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Budgie one. I may actually install that on physical hardware, maybe on my main production machine. So So I really like Budgie as a desktop environment. So,
I'm
but of
just
course,
keeping up with-
Yep. Well, I was going to say I was going to take a look at all of them, of course, on the channel. But as far as actually living in one for a little while, Budgie probably going to be the one I check out. What were you going to check out, Chris?
It's just that I'm just trying to keep Fedora stable for my users. That I haven't really. I've explored a couple of them, like thrown Mint on a couple machines, and don't really have the hardware to do a VM right now. Although that's going to change like within days. So I can play around and just hop on that and see what's going to work the best.
Right. Yeah, if you don't have especially RAM, VMs can be tough. What you could always do, though, I mean, if you just want to play around with different distros, you can always do live USB sticks.
I actually recommended Budgie to a friend from operating system classes.
Okay, cool.
We have to use Ubuntu, and he wasn't really sure what to do. He was the first time with Linux, so I recommended him to go Budgie.
Okay.
But it's a nice operating system and a nice distribution, nice DE, and we'll see on first hour next time we have operating systems. We'll ask him how it was for him.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that works. Budgie's nice. It's not as mature as a lot of other desktop environments. It's still a work in progress. And unfortunately, the main guy that was behind the development of Budgie, as far as the Budgie desktop environment, is not around right now. So,
hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, Silent Robot.
hey, how's it going? Good morning, or
Good
good afternoon, or good night, or
Wherever
depending on where. Yeah, we've got time zones represented all over the world here.
It's good here, irrespective of time zones.
All right.
Anyway,
So
I just got a notification, by the way, that Dropbox is dropping support of Ubuntu 16 and Fedora 20 and lower. So you gotta have Fedora 21 and Ubuntu 16.18, I think, and above to continue using the desktop integration of Dropbox.
yeah, that's strange. Yeah, I don't get what Dropbox is doing, especially dropping all the support for the different file systems. And I'm a Dropbox user. I like using it. It works, but I'm gonna explore some other options. Actually, in November, because that's when a lot of this is going to take place. As far as they're no longer going to support any file systems other than Extend 4, unencrypted Extend 4. You can't encrypt your. If you encrypt your file system, they won't support that either. So
I actually use Nextcloud myself.
yeah, that's probably what I'll do. So I'll just do Nextcloud. So I've been playing around a little bit with Nextcloud. It's nice. I like it. People have also recommended me some other things. Spider Oak, somebody recommended to me. I haven't taken a look at that. There's a few different things out there that seem like they would.
Only trust cloud I made and nothing else. Like for me, cloud is a security threat.
Well, I'm not putting anything sensitive, in the cloud.
I mean, neither. But I like to say that from anything they can figure out something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to run my own instance.
Yeah. That's probably the way to go.
I've got a local server now, so I'm going to do it that way.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I mean, wherever you put your documents in the cloud, you have to trust the provider.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would never put anything sensitive. I mean, I just put like config files and just non-personal documents, music, things like that. I'm not.
And as we all know today, data is currency, and probably one of the most valuable currencies now.
Information is currently the most valuable currency in the world.
Exactly.
And basically, even gold is less valuable than information.
And I'm definitely not putting anything personal in my Dropbox account now that they're telling me that make sure my file system is unencrypted. That basically tells me we really want to read your stuff, so please don't encrypt your file system.
What about stuff like G Drive and
yeah,
trust the almighty Google on that?
Yeah, I don't like doing anything with Google. I really don't use any Google products at all. I have an Android phone, unfortunately.
What about Gmail?
I don't use Gmail. I don't use any of the Google services. The only thing I have to use, of course, is YouTube. I mean, technically, because I have that Android phone, I have a Gmail address because you have to, but I don't even know the username. I've never logged into it. You just have to have one to activate your...
what kind of mail do you have? Like
I've got my own domain names. I just do my own.
Oh,
I've never used webmail ever. I just don't do it.
If I have my own domain, I would probably have my own mail, and I would like
I just do. Yeah, I've just never been into webmail. I mean, back in the day with Hotmail and Yahoo Mail and now Gmail. Never had any of them other than to use them as throwaway accounts, when I don't want to give somebody my real email.
I have so many throwaway accounts that I can't even count them anymore.
Yeah. Proton Mail. I think I signed up over there once just to check it out. People keep telling me I need to take a look at Proton Mail as far as web email. Again, I don't use web email, but Proton Mail seems like a nice product.
Yeah, Proton's good.
Yeah, privacy oriented. So,
but you still need to trust them. That's the problem.
Well, you're gonna have to trust somebody. If you're on the internet, you're already trusting somebody. If I'm on the internet, my ISP knows everything I'm doing. So already, as soon as I connect to the internet, I've got to trust somebody. So,
well, if you want to install anything, even on Linux, on Windows, whatever, you have to trust that provider. That was actually one of the points I was trying to make in the comments of the last taking into account that any provider on Windows, on Linux, on Mac, everyone says how Linux is secure package distribution, how secure it is. It's actually not. You have to trust, in Ubuntu case, the canonical software repositories. That means that you must trust that they didn't get hacked. You must trust that they don't have somewhere near them a leak. And then
you have to trust your Linux distribution.
Yeah.
You have to trust their repos. You've already given them root access to your machine. They have root.
Yeah.
So you've kind of already, as soon as you installed whatever you installed, I mean, you've given them root access to your machine.
And most software isn't on repositories, so you have to trust the distributors of the software. Like, let's say.
Well, if you're talking about snaps and flat packs, but really, you're supposed to do your own homework if you're using third-party applications. Yeah.
Whatever you do on the internet, you should do your own homework.
Right.
But
we've got the dark one that just joined us. How you doing?
Going on, guys.
Yep. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
It's
Afternoon.
Hopefully, it's a good morning.
I don't know. Sunlight and my name usually don't go hand in hand.
Yeah, but safety and security, privacy concerns. I mean, you do have to trust somebody out there. Now, I don't trust people that have proven not to be trustworthy. Like I said, I don't often use anything by Google. Obviously, I got off of Facebook. I mean, there's some companies that you just know are going to screw up when it comes to security and with privacy. I mean, Facebook was in the news again. How many was it? 30 million, 50 million accounts?
Yeah, but as far as I know, that was actually like a stupidity thing on their APIs. And actually, no accounts were actually hacked. It was just that somebody could drop in on the exchange of the keys or whatever. You could get into the account, but you couldn't actually figure the password.
Yeah.
I don't know, something about it. It was talked in the security class. I don't know. I didn't listen that hour because I was Facebook. Come on, can we talk about anything else?
Well, it's been a bad year for Facebook, and you would think more people would get off of it, but
Well, surely if they've got the account keys, they can act as that user and post anything they like.
But the catch was that once they actually know how much time the keys didn't refresh, because they were basically just dropping on the key. The key didn't refresh, and if in so much time the key didn't refresh, it was automatically logged out. Something in that. I don't know. Really didn't listen. But
That's what I read this morning on their website, that in fact they basically just logged out all the affected people, so they'd have to log back in.
Yeah, then I did that. Yeah.
I'd read that too. So has Zuckerberg commented on this? Publicly? Yeah. So I don't know.
Probably they actually did that out. They X the function for him to output data. That's a joke on the internet that he's a robot.
Yeah.
He's very sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Well, switching a little bit from Facebook, of course, the big news this past week, Microsoft and their patents. What do you guys think about them joining the Open Invention Network, the OIN, and going ahead and releasing some of their patents too? This is strange. This is like,
to me, it's not strange because I quite follow Microsoft because I'm quite a fan, or used to be. Now I'm less. But it seems with Satya Nadella, the new director, everything changed. Yes, some of the old stuff still remain, like Windows 10, spying, all that. That was like more of an old guard thing. But with Satya Nadella, it appears either he's more open source inclined or he listens to his employees, because as far as I know, there is a big group of people in there that is actually quite fond of open source. I know of whole .NET Core team is open source like hell. Like they're really open source guys. That's why it's actually open source .NET Core. As far as I heard, they actually convinced the upper echelon of Microsoft to do open source.
well, what makes this strange is many people don't realize it, but one of Microsoft's biggest money makers in the past few years has been Android.
Android patents.
Because they have patents related to Android. So, like all these billions of Android devices that are activated every year, Microsoft gets a little bit of money for each one of those devices, and they make like $6 billion a year, I think it was estimated, off of Android. So, if they give up those patents,
Yeah, I was gonna say they make more than Google does off Android.
Yeah, like Samsung. Samsung has to pay them a little bit for every one of those Galaxy devices. So that is a huge money maker for Microsoft actually. And if they open source, all these patents, and no longer go full patent troll like they have been in the past, that's going to result in them basically giving up this money. So that's strange.
I was going to say, if you look at what Microsoft's done since Satya Nadella took over, after Ballmer. I think a lot of it is business. It's all business decisions. You can look at it from it's being friendly to developers and all the other stuff. At the end of the day, it's where they're going to make their money. They're making their money. They're making their money off Azure and all the other stuff related to that. So at the end of the day, them doing this is actually a business play, because if you look at it, it's no different than IBM really. Back in the early 2000s, when IBM was like, here's a bunch of patents that we're not going to sue you for. And, what did IBM do? They went from hardware into software and services, and that's where they made their money.
Yeah. And, Microsoft, of course, is a company. I mean, it's all about profits here. And I'll be honest, if I'm a investor in Microsoft, if I held stock in Microsoft, I would be concerned about them giving up these patents, and you know, the loss of revenue related to it. I mean, I love it from an open source, you know, from a Linux point of view, but yeah, you know, their shareholders may not love this that much.
But then it's a very different ecosystem today than it was 20 years ago. That, you know, they have to adapt to what's happening now. You know,
right? But also, Windows 10 is supposedly the last of the Windows kernel.
Actually, not the last kernel.
And so they're moving things over to make a Windows desktop more of an environment on a open source platform, let's say like Linux. The main thing that they have not done, I mean, they look what they did with PowerShell. They made PowerShell available for development within Linux. They've also ported over a Bash interpreter to run under Windows. The main difference, though, is they still have not gotten .NET to work under a Linux kernel. And
Part of .NET, specifically the newer version of .NET Core, is running under Linux completely normally, without any kind of special software beside the .NET Core, of course. But .NET Framework will never be ported because it's older version, and it's mostly right now used for old applications. Yeah, they're updating it, like security fixes and stuff like that. Maybe new features for those who like the features from .NET Core, but it's mainly because of Windows, because Windows uses a lot of .NET Framework by itself. And they're mostly pushing for .NET Core because it is a bit smaller and more compact and more clean. And because it has a bigger, smaller update cycle, they can push out more updates, more features, and stuff like that. It's open source.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think at the end of the day, Microsoft's trying to be the one-stop development shop. Is really
that's what they're after. Yeah,
that is the market they want.
Yeah, they've even admitted it. Didn't they say it's all about developers? They want as many. You know, that's what they're trying to attract the developers. So,
the most important people in computer world. If there is no developers, there is no need for computers.
Just briefly in the chat, we have somebody with the username Shrek. He mentions he's new to Linux and he's using Ubuntu 18.04. He's having a good time with it. So everybody, welcome Shrek to the Linux community. Shrek, the Linux community, I'll warn you, it's like an onion. We have layers. So
yeah, some really good layers and some really bad.
And some traps as well. Watch out for those.
Yeah, but once you get past those bad parts, it's actually really good.
Yeah.
You just learn to avoid the arch forms. Okay.
I thought that was well, according to Ryan, it's the IRC, but same difference.
Yeah, the IRC is bad. Yeah.
You have to stay away from any kind of stack exchange. Those are bad.
Yeah, as somebody that's been to a lot of the various distros forums out there, I can tell you some are worse than others. Everybody likes to talk about the Arch forums in particular. There's some other ones that
Gentoo.
Gentoo
forums.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, the Debian forums can be an unfriendly place sometimes when you go to get support. The Fedora forums are pretty nice. Manjaro,
hit or miss. It depends on the user responding usually.
Right.
Is anyone using Slackware anymore, or is it all gone Debian?
Yeah, they're using Slackware as well.
Well, Slackware's still around. Is there that many people using Slackware? No, it's kind of a smaller niche kind of distro. But it's the oldest active Linux distro, still with the main dev that originally created it, Patrick. He's still involved with the project. So,
did they ever get that whole financial situation straightened out? I haven't heard. Of course, typical.
Yeah, I haven't heard back.
Failure.
Yeah, when that first went down, I did contact him, and he set up a PayPal account to accept donations, and I think he got a pretty good amount of donations when he set that up because it was in the news. You know, it was kind of a big deal. People were kind of scared that, you know, Patrick might actually just quit developing Slackware because he was having some health problems. He was broke. He's the only person really behind Slackware. I mean, there's other people, but he's what keeps that thing going.
Yeah, I was going to say he's the sole dev. Right. Everybody else is just like a drive-by contribution kind of thing.
And really, and I've tried to tell not just Patrick, but there's some other Linux distributions out there that are hurting for money, and you know they're so worried with code, they're not sure how to support these projects financially. Guys, set up a Patreon account. Most everybody's on Patreon anyway. I mean, a lot of us give money to various open source projects on Patreon. Mm-hmm. If you're not on Patreon, get a Patreon account.
Yeah.
So, also give me a way to donate when I download your ISO. A lot of distributions don't do that. Yeah, like Ubuntu, like Elementary. When I download your ISO, give me a way to send you a few bucks for, you know, right there on that page. So.
Yeah. On the Microsoft, we were talking about Microsoft. I would like to quick point about the update that was having problems with deleting files. They found out what was wrong and fixed it. It was actually how they handled the old folders that were actually still like if there was anything in the old My document that was under users in the system directory of user, and they actually made 2 copies of the documents. And when they were in the new update, they were trying to copy everything to their new folder, let's say My Documents, but that line was probably commented or something, and they just deleted everything that was in the old My Documents directory, and basically and they lost everything that was in the old directory, and everything that was in the new directory stayed the same. So, yeah, it was a bug. They fixed it. Kinda their fault, but yeah, mistakes happen, sadly.
Well, right. Of course, it's their fault, but yeah, it's good they fixed it.
Yeah, humans have 3% chance of making a mistake. Happens.
You said that we have a 3% chance of making a mistake?
Yeah. Each action we do has a 3% chance to be wrong.
I think that varies from individual to individual, because I've seen some.
That's the perfect state when you are just enough happy and everything, every aspect is like exactly the best, the perfect conditions. You have 3% chance on every action that you take, but with most people actually higher on most times.
Human nature would state otherwise. Just gonna say.
Perfect conditions 3%, but most people actually have a chance of making mistake more because it's almost never perfect condition.
Yeah.
And that's why we have the Darwin Awards.
Yeah. And while we're talking about some of this stuff, I guess briefly, anybody want to comment on this website, flatkills.org, that basically is out there scaring people? Flatpak is a security nightmare. I know when this guy first put this website up, it was all over Twitter and Reddit. It's a one-page website, pretty easy to read. I read it, and the whole time I'm reading
Is it sponsored by Ubuntu or the Snap people?
No, because this isn't. I mean, you can install Flatpaks on Ubuntu; they don't mind. This is the problem. The problems he lists here all could be applied to snaps. That's the thing.
Snaps, app image, they could be applied to even Debs and what we have now.
No, they could be applied
to repositories in reality. To anything.
Matter of fact, some of his security nightmares he's talking about with Flatpak, I mean, in a lot of ways, PPAs and packages from the AUR are worse in security than what he's talking about with Flatpaks and snaps. And he's just focusing on Flatpaks. For some reason, he's got something about Flatpaks he really wants to share to the world.
I think it's FUD. I think it's FUD just for FUD because, welcome to Linux.
And this guy's Yeah, he's probably focusing on Flatpak. He's probably, one of these Red Hat guys that, he lives in that world, so that's what he's, focused on is Flatpaks. But yeah, this would all apply to snaps and app images. Like he talks about the sandboxing. Everybody loves to talk about how Flatpaks are sandbox. He says that's a lie. It kind of is. You're really not sandboxed as far, you're not. Yeah, you had something, Big Pop?
I was like parrot what I said in the comment. That, all software repositories are kind of a problem, and sandboxing is hard to do because, well, even the programs they install have their own permissions, so you cannot actually apply a specific permission set. Except if you go if you go directly to the commands and everything to change the permissions, which is like a problem. But if any files outside of that sandbox want to be edited, you must have access to outside.
Right. And as Darkwing was mentioning, so the sandbox is a lie. Well, there's no sandbox with debs and RPMs. I'm not sandboxing anything I install from a PPA or AUR or Slackware package builds or anything, so okay, so it's not sandbox. Neither is anything else I'm installing.
Maybe it's just a truth and advertising thing.
Yeah.
It
is in basics. It probably is applied, but because every developer wants access out of that sandbox, they just apply that there is no sandbox.
You're right, Andy. It is. He's wanting to call them out on maybe some false advertising. Giving people a false sense of security. I mean, this website is well done. Everything he mentions. I mean, this is not a troll. This guy is seriously concerned with this stuff. I mean, you can read it. You can tell this isn't just some kid, that threw up this page, wanting to troll the internet. I mean, this guy's serious about this. So,
well,
I'm actually.
I was going to say the one that gets me is the one about the apps not being updated. That's on that's on developers. That's not.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with Flatpak.
That one was really a problem for me. What he said. If developer doesn't want to update the Flatpak, that's his problem, not the Red Hat. So
that's not Red Hat's problem. It's not the people that created the format. So.
Well, I mean, because it's the same thing that applies to, as Derek mentioned, PPAs, AUR. Like, how many times have you gone to the AUR to build something because you don't have it on the normal, repos, and then it won't build because it hasn't been updated.
Right. There's dependency problems, and you're not going to ever get it to build for you properly. Yeah.
So
because the developer hasn't updated it since 2014 or whatever.
Exactly. So, and PPAs are the same way. If they haven't been updated to the newest LTS or whatever version, it's just FUD to me. It's no different than Microsoft stuff. It's a lot of it can be applied to Linux in general.
Actually, I had on Ubuntu side, I had problems with installing Nextcloud last time I was doing it, and it was because we have a zip file of Nextcloud. You put it in, and have to install PHP and different stuff for PHP. And PHP was on one version. All the extensions were on one version less.
Yeah. Well, I give you a hint with Nextcloud. If you don't mind using snaps, sudo snap install Nextcloud. You're done. Yeah, it installs the Apache server, the complete LAMP stack, and it's already ready to go.
That's a problem for me because I want to have access to my SMB file share through the Nextcloud, and you need a zip version if you want to have access to SMB. Snap, at least I couldn't set it up. Anyway, so I gone for the zip file version, and now I have access to my SMB, and so I can access my NAS and everything.
All right. So there was a problem with the PHP version.
Yeah, PHP, I believe it was one version. It was already updated, but extensions for it, let's say PHP. MB string, multi-byte string, wasn't updated. It was one version less.
So you needed a newer version?
So I needed a newer version of MB string. What I did, but some extensions were on the new version. So what I did, I searched the myself the whole Ubuntu repository, like through a web browser, and downloaded all the old versions of extensions in PHP and installed them the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat on YouTube asked about their Ryzen APU not working. Make sure you have the latest Mesa. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, latest Mesas are important with AMD, and probably something like maybe you probably should update your BIOS or UEFI as it is, because what's it called? EGISA updates fix a lot of problems. Those are UEFI BIOS updates.
Yeah,
those
Steve
fix
in the
a
chat.
lot of problems.
Yeah. What distro are you running, Steve? Your Ryzen. You're using a Ryzen Darkwing?
No. I'm on Intel machines.
Yeah.
As much as I would love to go Ryzen, unfortunately, that whole thing called money.
Yeah, that's preventing me. It's holding me back too. Maybe one day. The next build will be a Ryzen machine, but I'd really love that 32 core monster, but I just can't.
Ask Tyler about that. He's got the Threadripper.
That is a real monster. I wish I could have it.
And if I had it, the only thing I would do all day, I would just stare at H-top and look at those 64 threads. Just
when you have to scroll down just to read the threads.
I would probably have like 10 virtual machines running at once.
Yeah, you could do it.
And, I mean, on hardware virtual machines, not with VirtualBox.
Yeah, you could do 10 virtual machines, and you could give each one 6 gigs of 6 cores of your CPU, and then.
Yeah.
I was going to say you'd have to be more worried about running out of RAM than you would.
At that point, yeah. At that point, I would go with something like 128 gigs.
Yeah. If you buy a Threadripper, you're going 128 gigs easy. So.
Yep.
If you get that, you got to test it out by running Gentoo and compiling everything.
Actually,
that would go quick. Actually, yeah, you would probably be able to install Gentoo in under an hour, no problem.
I saw on Level 1 Text, I saw how much time it takes to do a standard kernel compile. Less than 30 seconds. To compile
on a Threadripper?
On the best Threadripper. Less than 30 seconds to compile the standard Linux kernel.
Well, that's interesting, because last time I compiled a kernel on a Gentoo install, it took an hour. So. Yeah, but my machine is not a good machine. But
those are 32 cores, 64 threads of really, 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 really beastly machine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, on modern hardware, the Gentoo install is not like it was 10 years ago. The compile times are not that bad. Yeah. Honestly, if I wanted to wipe out my Manjaro install and install Gentoo, in about 3 hours, I could be up and running. And again, I don't have a great machine here. For those running a lot better hardware, you can get that done even quicker. So,
Tim, oops, go ahead.
Close our eyes. It's like Thursday, which means we can talk about Linux.
Hey, Guru, your volume is really low. Can you bring it up? I don't know. Guru?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I was just saying your volume was a little low, so.
Pulse audio sucks.
Pulse audio? No, it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, the best thing ever.
Every time I always love bashing Pulse Audio, and I do get people sometimes that contact me to tell me how wrong I am about Pulse Audio. So it's like, okay.
In fairness to Pulse, the fact that our sound subset system is such a nightmare, it's kind of our own doing, and it's trying to make chaos out of more chaos. So,
And a lot of it is, people hating on the guy that created it, Lennart. So they
in
love
chat,
hating on Pulse Audio, and they love
I love
System D.
Pulse Audio.
Pulse Audio
well,
and System D.
Yeah. Well, we know Hinky is doing some interesting things with Pulse Audio. Yeah. Eventually, I'm going to have to move on over. Just go ahead and set up the Jack server and get off of Pulse Audio. It's just
For me, they're not that much a problem. Not System D and not Pulse Audio. For what I do, they're enough.
Yeah.
Maybe when I was gonna say, Derek, check out Scrapjaw's thing about setting up Pulse. Not Pulse, Jack. He's got a video series he's looking to do.
I watched those videos when he released them. Those were actually fantastic videos. Wish he'd do some more stuff with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there is not that much on YouTube about Jack. I've looked for it. There's no good tutorials. I mean, his are definitely the best.
Oh, hands down. I mean, because literally he does all his audio and everything because he has a full bore studio going.
Yeah.
Hey, present arms.
Hello.
The man is in the house.
Hey, Ali.
The man is in the house. How are we all?
Ali, didn't I just see you on Biddle?
Yeah.
You probably did. That's how I feel. I've gone left one and into the other, with a minor sleep in between. How are we all?
Guys,
Doing
can
good.
I ask a question?
Great to hear. Great to hear.
Yeah.
But can I ask a question for all here? So if who here calls Linux GNU Linux, why do you do that?
I don't call Linux GNU/Linux. Yeah, because it doesn't make sense. I respect Richard Stallman and all that, but here's the thing. If you go, okay, it's not really just Linux, it's GNU/Linux. Well, no, it's really GNU/systemd/Linux or GNU/systemd/GNOME. Like, where do you keep adding slashes and adding the names to all these other programs? And, like, okay, I get it. You want us to acknowledge that GNU is a big part of the operating system. We all know that. But for convenience sake, you know what? The operating system I run, it's Linux.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm in the same boat you are, Derek. To me, it's semantics. It really is. It's nitpicking. It's like, oh, well, we don't get, they feel they don't get the credit they deserve for being part of the system. Okay.
They don't deserve any credit.
They think because, GCC and other parts of GNU project are put into with the kernel to make a working operating system, they don't get the credit that they think they deserve. Whatever. That's their argument, essentially.
Yeah.
Get over it.
Actually, Linus Torvalds said that when he was interviewed somewhere about being called GNU/Linux, he said it is justified. And if and only if GNU makes their own distribution, they can call it GNU/Linux. He won't object. But the thought of being kernel and everything about Linux being called GNU/Linux is just ridiculous.
Well, Richard Stallman doesn't want the kernel to be called GNU/Linux. The kernel is just Linux. No, he just wants he wants all our Linux distributions to be called GNU/Linux.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
He wants all the credit. Anytime Linux is mentioned, he wants marketing wise, he wants it GNU/Linux or GNU plus Linux or whatever. Yeah,
he wants anytime you mention anything about the kernel, that's Linux. That's just Linux. But when you're talking about the distributions we run, that's GNU/Linux. That's what he's talking about.
Again, semantics.
Yeah.
Actually, one time I actually read somewhere interview with him. And I think personally that he is a bit of either a sociopath or just full of himself, because he said that we run GNU systems all the time, that Linux is a GNU system. And that first of all, to me was like, what the fuck, mate? It isn't a GNU system.
Language, sir.
Google, I'm really
That's
sorry.
it, you want to choice it here, boss.
Well, I'm probably going to be demonetized anyway, so let's go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Let's
make it a truly free.
And on the other hand, you know why he wants it to be called GNU/Linux? Actually, you know one of the reasons, or at least I think it was one of the reasons, because at the time when Linux was still young and all, GNU wanted to create their own kernel. nothing connected to the Linux at all.
It was called Herd.
GNU
Yeah,
Herd.
they have their own kernel. It just doesn't work very well.
It isn't made yet. It never was made. As far as I'm aware, it was never made fully because it is. As one guy I listened to, was listening to one lesson about operating systems and why it shouldn't be called GNU/Linux, and he said that GNU Herd, it was never made because people who were making it want to implement the same thing 3D, and it was supposed to be a microkernel. Basically, just basic stuff and nothing else. Because, for example, Linux is a monolithic kernel where it's like a bit of something more than just real basics in there. And because GNU Herd, they said how it will beat Linux, like it will be the best kernel ever, it will beat Linux, Unix, and Windows kernels, how it will be the best one, and he never succeeded. So then he wanted at least some credit, and he started attacking GNU to Linux.
Well, let me correct you on a few things. As far as Richard Stallman being a little weird, I think he has a touch of autism or Asperger's or something. A lot of these devs do. A lot of these socially awkward people. That's part of his. But the Herd kernel has been under development for 3 decades.
Never fully made.
I was going to say, you can go to Git and...
You can go get it, yeah. So, I mean, it's there. It's not ready for prime time. No, but they have their own kernel. Yeah. So when he says he's running... When he says he's running GNU machines or whatever, he may actually be running the Herd kernel. I mean, because they're developing it. So.
Ready for prime time.
Hey, Pizza, make sure you mute the stream.
One thing, another thing. There exist Linux distributions, technical distributions, that don't use GNU at all, except for Linux license. Android is an example of that. Android is fully built so it doesn't use GNU at all.
Android is also overglorified VM for Java.
Yeah, it's just a Java environment. It's really
as far as like how it's built, it doesn't use GNU at all. So you can't really call all Linux distributions GNU/Linux because some may not use GNU at all. Yeah. You can use, instead of Bash, you can use ZSH. Instead of GNU, for example, which is sometimes like GNU, you can use KDE. As far as I know, it doesn't involve GNU at all. Instead of GCC, you can use CLang.
Okay.
And that's how you can decouple yourself from GNU.
GNU was a very big and important project when Linux was first around. It was where Linus Torvalds turned to, because although we wrote the code and got it functioning, we didn't have any tools.
Easier.
And he had a choice of either going to the GNU, right, or he could have actually used the BSD tools.
Yeah.
But he decided to go to GNU, right? Of course, this pleased Richard Stallman because, hey, I'm actually going to get somewhere with this one day.
Yeah. Actually,
there's nothing wrong with the GNU tools. I mean, if it weren't for the GNU tools really being already around, we won't be seeing the desktops we are now.
Yeah. Actually, first time I read about Richard Stallman, I thought he was like a guy who wanted to make a quick get-rich-quick scheme. Get-rich-quick scheme. Yeah.
I don't think Richard Stallman's trying to get rich. I don't think that's really his game.
I figured that out quickly because
that's not.
He's really bad con artist.
You know, if you want to learn some history about the development of GNU/Linux and know a little more about Stallman and about Torvalds, I posted a link in the chat. It's a Wikipedia article about a movie called Revolution OS. If you guys have never seen that movie, it is a great movie about the early days of
1999.
Yeah. And basically how Torvalds, created the Linux kernel, but he really couldn't create an operating system out of it without the compiler, of course, he needed the GNU utilities, and how the GNU guys, they couldn't get the kernel right. They've been working on the herd kernel forever, but Linus, started working on the Linux kernel, and like a year later, he's ready to release one. So they really needed each other. Yeah.
Revolution OS is actually a really good movie to watch if you want to see the history and
test.
You get certain things like the launch of VA Linux systems. You get some history lessons, and it's really
it really is
interesting
insight. Yeah, it really is an interesting movie.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, Pizza.
Okay,
Yeah, we can
good.
hear you, Pizza.
So what's funny is Sad Error, 256. Well, he's a Linux YouTuber. He used to be called Pseudo Linux, and he told me that he emailed Richard Stallman, and Richard Stallman asked him to change his name to Pseudo GNU Linux.
You dropped out there.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But yeah. So Richard Stallman's email address is out there. You can email him and ask him anything you want. You probably get a response. I don't know. Did he really ask somebody to change their YouTube username? That's strange. If that was true, I hope
that's what Sad Error told me.
It sounds like an urban myth.
Yeah, that sounds strange there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always looked at GNU as more kind of like the OFS of networking, where you have the 8 layers for your network stack. In reality, you don't have the 8 layers, but it helps for visualization purposes and also defining what needs to be done, talking between the various functions.
Just briefly, I want to mention something here. Revolution OS that we mentioned. I'm not recommending you guys do this, but the whole movie is posted on YouTube. Okay.
Is it now? That's cool. That's going to get me torrent sites up. Cool.
Yeah. But it's an old movie, and it's not like it was a moneymaker. It's about Linux. So that's probably why it's up on YouTube. So.
Chris, you were saying?
I was pretty much done. I looked at GNU kind of like the providing a framework of standards of how open source is supposed to work.
No, it's not open source though, Chris. It's free software.
Yeah, no, it isn't. But I mean, it's kind of the progenitor of it almost.
Yeah, and that's the next argument we could get into is free software versus. And matter of fact, Revolution OS is going to get into that argument in a big way.
Software.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Can we not get into that argument?
Yeah. I actually give Stallman some credit on that, the free software, open source software, and that's really why he doesn't particularly like Torvalds that much. They kind of have this beef going. It's because of that, the split between free software and open source software is.
The short end of their argument and split is one's a pragmatist and one's an ideologist. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. One's best tool for the job. The other one has certain principles he sticks to. Whatever.
Kind of like Pirates of the Silicon Valley was a movie of the stuff going on between Jobs and Gates. So.
And I tell you, since we mentioned Facebook earlier, if you guys have never watched The Social Network, check that out. It makes Zuckerberg look like a complete jackass. It really does. It makes him look like a horrible person.
I think Apple's problem is the reason Windows and Android took off is because they refused to license their software off. Like, if they licensed off Mac OS, then I'd probably have Mac OS on my computer on my Windows computer instead of Windows.
Well, the problem was they were doing that, and Steve Jobs, when they were doing clones, and when Steve Jobs came back, he basically said, "Hey, we still want to license it, but these are the terms we're doing with it, and we're doing the quality control, et cetera, et cetera." They wanted it to be the vertical stack that they ended up being, and all the OEMs were like, "Nope, we're good."
Well, they never tried licensing out iOS though.
Why would they when they're making money on an integrated stack on their core operating system and hardware, and you can essentially do that with they had that with the iPod, then they had it with Mac OS.
Yeah.
Why are you gonna license out outside of that business model when it's
But
proven to
I'm
be.
just saying that's why Windows and Android are so popular, because both times it was Apple refusing to license their OS out.
Yeah, but Apple, I mean, they've been doing this for decades. This is their business model. I mean, other people have had to scramble to figure out, how to make money, but Apple, I mean, they're a $1 trillion company. They're not changing anything they're doing. So.
They are making money hand over fist with that business model, and you can't really blame them for being like, I mean, at the end of the day, they are at the high end of the market.
Yeah,
and that is where most of the profit is. All these other companies are playing for how close can you get it to the basement for pricing.
But also, though, they could be even higher if they charge fees to let people use their OS.
Nobody would pay to use their OS though.
Well, what I'm saying is, if they licensed it to begin with, then Microsoft wouldn't have made Windows to start licensing that.
Actually, no. Windows was, I believe, before, or if it wasn't, they had plans to do it.
Yeah.
And even Windows, the first versions of Windows were crap.
Yeah, they were.
3.1 is like super crap.
Windows 95 was really the first good Windows.
Actually, had
I guess 3.1, but
Windows NT.
Yeah, I don't know. Windows 3.1 was pretty awesome for the time.
Okay, for the time, but in reality, it was crap testing because it didn't really work.
But when you sit down at those old Windows machines and then you sit down at old Macintosh, because I used to have to use those, back in the day in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, the Macs were so much better. I mean, that's the computer everybody wanted. You didn't want a Windows machine. Yeah. Matter of fact, Windows 95 is the first good Windows. Pizza loving nerd said, Windows 95 copied a lot of what was going on with the Mac. So that's
definitely.
What's stupid though is when Windows Vista came out, Apple claimed that they copied the dock from Mac.
Well, I mean, they might have a point there. I mean, I don't know.
But actually, Windows 1 had a similar taskbar. Like in the presentation where they announced Windows Vista, the guy was like, "Okay, I'm probably gonna get fired for saying this, but we actually ripped off Windows 1.0." That might be why Windows Vista sucks so much.
There were a lot of Windows Vista.
Windows Vista
background there. That's
a lot of moving pieces. Don't forget this whole Xerox thing with doing the whole point and click environment.
Apple.
That's where all the idea came from. Was from the Xerox Alto, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was the first one with the UI and the mouse.
And also, a lot of people, like to think we live in this world where it's basically just Windows is the dominant operating system. There's a few people running Macs, and that's the way it's been forever. But really, back in the 80s, I mean, there were a bunch of different operating systems to choose from, and there was no real dominant platform.
There's all these Unix-based ones.
Right. There was a ton of other stuff.
MS-DOS wasn't the only DOS. It was...
Right.
Yeah, MS-DOS wasn't the only DOS product. There was tons of them.
And really
those were like the big ones.
Yeah. When Windows 3.1 came out, that was it. Everybody went to Windows. That was...
Yeah, Windows 3.1 was big.
Well, Mac OS 10 is a BDS.
BSD.
With the GUI.
Yeah, it should be called GNU Mac OS.
Yeah.
No, they're not using GNU utilities, though, are they?
Nano's using BSD utilities.
Right.
Nano and Vim are both in Mac OS.
Yeah, and GCC is also in Mac OS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the compiler is.
You can put GNU tools in Mac, yeah? So
that's right. If it has Nano, that's a GNU utility. It should be GNU/FreeBSD/Mac OS.
The older ones were made from Darwin Unix, but I don't know if it's still Darwin or it's now FreeBSD. I believe the older ones were Darwin Unix.
And an interesting bit of history, a lot of people don't know, Apple actually tried to hire Linus Torvalds at one point. He mentioned that they were interested in maybe taking him on to work on their kernel. And this was after he's already, started the Linux kernel. He, of course, declined. But that's interesting. I wonder how much money he could make working for a company like Apple or Microsoft or Google, if he went,
So, something tells me Linus financially is doing just fine.
I'm sure he's okay, yeah, but still.
Fine, yeah. I won't mind being a pain behind you.
Yeah.
Apple uses their own kernel.
Yeah, they use the mock kernel.
Yes, mock kernel.
They use their own XNU kernel based on FreeBSD.
Yeah, the kernel's called mock. M-A-C-H.
Here
I think Mark 1, Mark 10.
It's XNU kernel. Apple,
I thought the Mac OS kernel was Darwin.
No, the operating system it used to be based on it, but they created, then used their own kernel XMU, and yeah, Darwin was.
I just want to say Mac OS would be a million times better if it was based on BSD.
Yeah, it's based on BSD.
I mean, on Linux. Sorry.
It was based. Darwin is Apple's operating system. It is based on BSD.
When macOS was first around, which is what a few years ago now, BSD was a lot more stable than Linux at that time. Way more stable because it was being brought up from System V.
Then why don't
BSD.
people? Why didn't BSD become the dominant OS for servers?
Because BSD, if you go back far enough, it's been around since 1968, 9, somewhere around there. So it was a very mature operating system. Linux is just a baby of the bunch, really.
Has BSD been around that long? I thought BSD was born in the 80s.
No.
BSD itself as BSD has been around in the 80s, but Unix, which is a fork.
You're considering it successor to Unix. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's a direct descendant from Unix.
Right, but you can't use Unix. Isn't the name?
Yeah.
So that's where that come from.
Yeah, it is interesting, though. People do talk about that. Why is BSD older than Linux, but Linux is so much more mature. Probably a lot of that has to do with just the money, the corporate backing. I mean, think about what funds development for Linux these days. It's
I was going to say a lot of it is the license.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. What did Apple?
GPL?
Yeah. Why did Apple take a BSD kernel? BSD license because they threw a proprietary front end on the front,
right? And
they don't have to release the kernel or the code back upstream.
That's right. The BSD license lets you do anything you want to with that software.
So, including as much as Richard Stallman wants to say that GPL is better, free BSD BSD license is actually more free if you really want to look at it.
Well, it's more free, but in that sense, is it better? The fact that I can take something that is under the BSD license, I can repackage it, rename it, slap a proprietary license on it. Is that good? Obviously, the GPL would not allow that. The GPL says it's got to be open source forever. It's got right.
Yeah. I mean, you got to remember, Microsoft used BSD back in Windows 95 days for the TCP/IP stack. That was a BSD. That was fun.
One problem BSD had was it was associated with Unix, and Unix at the time was not cheap. It was really, really, really expensive, and you only saw it in these really, really advanced hardware boxes like graphic machines and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why you didn't really get traction. Beside on the server side, when you had a little bit of traction.
Yeah, that was kind of a huge mess up by AT&T. I think developed Unix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually saw like really cheap Unix box at the time. It was really cheap Unix box. It was $100,000.
Wow.
And
that's why Linux was started.
I actually was somewhere, I don't know where, they had this on display, this old Unix box. And it was at the time really cheap, $100,000.
Well, hardware costs too back then were just people just didn't have computers, back in the.
But IBM's PCs were way cheaper and had better sort of for normal people OSs. On the Unix side, for example, HP made Unix boxes. They were extremely expensive, and only really big companies had them. And most of them actually weren't even by the desks of users because they were so loud.
Oh yeah.
Sure. I worked for a company had an HP mainframe, and Unix was the operating system, I believe.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it was probably HP UX, I believe, is what most of the
HP UX. They were HP UX.
HP UX, IOX. Whatever for that.
Basically, something HP related from back when.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Dan. How you doing?
I had to switch OSs. Manjaro is being a real pain lately.
Shocking surprise.
Yeah, the audio don't work, Zoom don't work. The virtual box, when you do get it to work, it shows you have USB 3 capability, but won't read the USB drive.
Did you install the VirtualBox Station Pack?
Yes, I installed all kinds of packs every which way. What I hate about the virtual boxes is if you want to manually install an extension pack, it pops up with the authentication screen, and it blocks it and screws it up so you can't install it manually.
Now, after you install some of that stuff, you sometimes need to restart.
Never had a problem.
Also, did you sometimes it'll give you commands to type in the terminal. Did you install all of this at the command line? Or sometimes you'll have to run that sudo mod probe whatever command to fix some of your problems.
Actually, there's a preference thing, and you go down to extensions, and you go through the menu and fish out the extension you want to add to VirtualBox. You click on it, and automatically you get the password screen that pops up, and it blows it right out of the water.
I tried Manjaro 3 years ago. It was great for a month till I got a kernel panic. Never went back, even though I could fix it. No trust. I'm not going to use any distribution where you should watch the website and look for problems with what they're about to download and install.
Yeah.
That's what keeps it fun.
Right.
It had
some people actually like to do things with their computers and not just set up operating systems,
I really hate the Manjaro community because when I first started doing Linux, I made a video called Why I Left Manjaro, and it got uploaded to the Manjaro forums, and I got a whole bunch of hate comments.
Welcome to the internet.
Yeah, I mean that's normal.
If you have an opinion on the internet and somebody disagrees with it, it is going to go into some type of, I say hate forum, but hate mentality or dislike mentality. And people just jump on it. It's the mob mentality, regardless of where you go.
This doesn't have anything. This doesn't have anything to do with Manjaro. You put a video on YouTube. Okay, that's all you needed to do. Okay, right.
That didn't happen with my KDE Neon video, which was very similar.
Because a lot of those guys they don't know about the internet yet. The KDE guys, they're not normal people.
Hey, thanks.
They don't.
I really wanted to give this a fair shake. I've tried it twice now, and it's let me down every time. And they claim that Manjaro, you can be a new user.
No.
Well, I'm an intermediate.
Manjaro you're using.
No. I'm an intermediate user, and I still have issues.
No, I'm sorry. Any rolling distro, I don't care if you're Solus, I don't care if you're Arch, you do not put as an easy to use new user on.
Well, Solus, I've never had an issue with in anything. The only thing that's kind of hard to install in Solus is VirtualBox, but then they have a really nice guide on their website for installing it.
Any rolling
release, yeah.
I don't care
how. You have to restart after
again. Any rolling. don't care the distro is bad to be put on because all it takes is one update to break it.
I've never had Solus break from updates.
That's your experience.
Yeah, but he's not wrong, Pizza. Here's the thing. Common sense tells us the more packages you have update, the more likely something's going to break. That's just common sense, right? So naturally, a rolling release is not going to be as stable as a fixed release. That's just the facts.
Well, I've had Ubuntu break on updates before with me.
Sure, I've had Debian stable break on me. That doesn't mean Debian's unstable. It just means I've managed to break
something on your system did not stay well.
Right.
It can. This is the problem, and the biggest gripe I have with people who do I don't want to say reviews, but like take looks at distros like that, where it's like, oh, that's your experience, awesome, but that doesn't speak for the experience that everybody else might have. Not saying
also, now to be cleared off.
I was going to say it's not that it doesn't justify your experience, because it's important to have feedback for the developers to have. But on the same note, you can't just say like, "Oh, this is terrible." Like like in Dan's case, he said, "How many times did he try Mandrill? 3 times now."
Yes.
I hate the people that reply to somebody like Dan, like they're lying. Like, I had Manjaro break on me 3 times. I'm done with it.
Yeah, that's
well, you know what? My Manjaro's so stable. I've been using it for 5 years.
Exactly.
Like, dude, just shut up.
Yeah.
Just, nobody wants to hear that.
What?
He probably checks the website every day before he updates.
And I've had these Arch users. They're the worst ones. I've been running Arch for 6 years. Never had to reinstall. Never had any breakages. You're lying.
I ran Arch for 2
You're
months.
lying.
He probably did, but he has dual boot for something else.
I believe he didn't have to reinstall. But when you say you ran a rolling,
But I had Arch installed for 2 months and I had to reinstall twice.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
normal.
the fact that
One
they
of them was
actually
user error,
it breaks. I can deal with it breaks. It's the thing that they say, oh, new users can use this with no problem.
Yeah.
Well, that's bad information.
Depends on the new user.
Is Manjaro like the devs saying that, or is this just people in the community?
No, that's the website. Like the website says it's good for basically every user.
And it's at the top of Distro Watch because people are downloading it every time it breaks to see if they can get a copy that won't break.
You are not a new user. That's the problem. You're already experienced user. That's the problem. Why it breaks.
Derek, how dare you say Debian stable broke for you? I can't believe it. It's never
it can
broken
happen.
for me. No.
All right. I must be lying.
You must be 100% wrong, right?
And this is where you get trashed on Twitter.
Twitter, YouTube comments, take your social network.
Derek, you've lived in it for a very long time, so you know the ins and outs and the under the hood and everything else about it. So you're familiar when something quits, you know where to go to fix it.
For the most part. It depends on how long it takes me to fix something. Like, because these Linux installs are so quick these days, if it's going to take me longer than, 30 minutes to fix something, if I've got good backups, why even bother? Like Andy mentioned this kernel panic. If I see a kernel panic, I'm not even about to try to research that problem and try, because in 15 minutes I can be back up and running. So.
Yeah. Actually, I remember when I got a virus and it was like, why the hell did you reinstall your operating system on Windows still? Why the hell did you reinstall if you can just delete the virus? There's actually a friend with who I go to school now, informatics, stuff like that, and told him, why would I try to fix it if I have backups on a different server not connected to the network, same network. So the virus didn't get there. Why the hell would I try to delete it if I can just dump the whole OS, reinstall Windows on there in 15 minutes, and be up there again? Because basic install of Windows takes 15 minutes. It's
for me it takes like 40 minutes, but I'm on a crappy computer, so.
My computer takes like 15 minutes. The problem is then all the reboots, they has to do 3 reboots. You have to click yes. No, don't want tracking here. Please don't turn it off. Then you have to type in username, like stupid hat 3 times.
By the way, Craig in the chat is asking what backup solution do I use to be back up and running in 15 minutes? Well, a Linux install these days, most of them on my machine even 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and I'm done. As far as backups, I've got all my dot files, all my config files saved to GitLab. I just pull that down, and I'm back up and running with all my key bindings and everything straight away. Now, I may not have all my data moved within 15 minutes, depending on, what I need to do. But, yeah, within 15 minutes, I can have all my programs and configs and everything. It can be done.
VirtualBox, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if I need it for something.
I struggled yesterday for 4 hours to try and get that to work. Man, that was, I ain't going there again.
What, VirtualBox or a VirtualBox?
VirtualBox itself, because you have to put in all the plugins
Whoa.
and the extension packs. And
I use one extension pack, the one that's actually...
And then you get one pack that doesn't work with the kernel you're using, so you got to advance the kernel to the next one, and then it'll take...
I was going to ask you, was there a kernel update in Manjaro too? Sometimes that can mess things up.
I gotta go now.
All right, Pizza.
Bye-bye, Pizza.
Before I go, I just want to say that I'm hosting a giveaway of Zorin OS Ultimate.
What are you giving away?
Channel. Zorin OS Ultimate.
What are you giving away?
Zorin OS Ultimate.
Ah, okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it ends on the 20th of this month.
Very cool.
Nice.
Okay, see ya.
All right, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks.
300 subs and a year on YouTube.
Nice.
Nice.
Congratulations.
45, I think. No.
Anyway, see ya.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, Pizza.
Good badge.
I think a lot of people who have been with Linux a long time forget what it was like to be a new user.
I thought the same
Yeah.
thing, Andrew. Exactly the same, because it's just totally different from what to be used to before Windows. And to say that any distro is not exactly newbie friendly, because they've just got to learn everything over from scratch. Everything is different.
I was a new user just, I don't know, I can't remember, maybe 3-4 years ago. It was Mint 17 was my first Linux distro. We had Windows ME, and that was dying. And I put in Mint and then went on from there. But I was lucky that it was a pretty simple setup and it all worked. But it was all totally mysterious, even having a book or two on it.
It's not just that it's not just like it's a big learning curve for the new user. It's a different kind of mindset too, is the problem.
Yeah.
Like, I check out all these distros. Some of them I don't know anything about. I go into, things break on me. I run into problems or whatever. I keep all that on the videos. You know why? Because people get to see how I don't get frustrated when something breaks, and I always fix it. I always read the documentation. I'm always going to get, assuming it can be fixed. So it's a different kind of mindset.
You're a calm, balanced dude.
Well, that's what you have to be. When you reboot your machine and all you get is a black screen, the new user is freaking out. Me, I'm like, well, this happened to me 2 weeks ago, so it's no big deal. Let me figure out, right? So
usually something to do with the NVIDIA drive.
Right, it's always an NVIDIA driver. But to a new user, he's about to reformat his drive and reinstall something when it's just install the right driver, reboot, and you're done. So,
Derek, I really wanted to love the Manjaro. I really did, but when I can't get on and talk to you guys, then that's another problem.
Yeah.
Back when I was taking my systems administration class back in 2003, I guess we were learning on Fedora Core 4, and so I've been with Linux in some version from that point. I've seen a lot of growth, and I've seen a lot of good and a lot of bad. But what I really like about running Linux is the fact that I don't lose control of my hardware, which is what I do when I run an Apple OS or even Windows, and I just much prefer to have have control over the hardware.
Right. Oh, and you mentioned, especially control over your hardware. What Apple is doing now with the MacBooks and the iMacs is, locking them down where you can't even get them repaired except by taking them to a authorized Apple repairman, the Apple store.
Total vertical integration, as was mentioned.
I mean, that is crazy because, say I'm qualified to work on a Mac. I know the problem. I can change out whatever needs to be changed out in this MacBook Pro. It won't work until I run a certain diagnostic software to complete, the repair. I have to have that software. Otherwise, this MacBook Pro is not going to work again. I have to take it, to the Apple store. So that's ridiculous. Yeah.
It is ridiculous.
8%. What's your distro based on?
PC Linux OS.
Oh, what is it from? Debian, Ubuntu, Arch?
No, it's originally it was a fork of Mandriva.
Okay.
Or Mandrake back in the day.
Mandrake. I remember Mandrake.
Yeah.
I'm not
it was
totally.
9.2 actually.
I used a lot of that Linux stuff back in 2004, 2005, and I gave up on it because the software just wasn't there to replace Windows.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Linux is moving along fast. Linux is not like it was 5 years ago.
Oh,
it's definitely not like it was 10 years ago. I mean, like if you go, I mean, we just had Ubuntu 18.04 back in April. Check out Ubuntu 8.04 compared to 18.04. You can still install it and try to run it, but
Derek, when does 18.10 come out? On what day?
This Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday. Unity too, wasn't it?
Thursday, okay.
Yeah,
I probably make my own recipe enough.
I used 1810 Ubuntu Mate for a week, and it was a beta. But other than the updater in it, most of it was rock solid. I had no issues.
Yeah, and I'll probably download Ubuntu 18.10 probably Tuesday or Wednesday next week instead of Thursday. You guys that are wanting to check it out, their servers are going to melt down on Thursday when they release. So good luck getting that
I'll
ISO.
probably install one.
Not just the servers, their mirrors as well.
Yeah. I had that problem with it. Yeah.
I actually have a mirror that won't melt down because it's like used by maybe 100,000 people. Because it's like
Do you know if they have an upgrade path to go from the beta to the non-beta?
Yeah, you just update the system and you're on it.
Just update the system.
Just upgrade.
Oh, good. I'm going to put it back in.
Yeah, there's no upgrade path for the beta as far as you do a sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade. You're on the latest version. You just roll right into the real version.
Yeah,
right?
Nice.
Great.
Right.
I was gonna say because
start working on the new my own respin right now.
Toss likes meatballs with his mate or mate.
Toss.
Yeah.
Yeah, Serge in the chat mentions that Present Arms, his distro is quite good. Yeah, his Trinity PC Linux OS is great. He's also asking about Calculate. Calculate just had a big release this past week too. Calculate Linux 18.
They did.
Haven't taken a look at it, but I should. I like Calculate.
Last week, it's
KDE just released a new version too.
Yeah, 5.14.
Yeah, the problem is there's been so many distro releases. Like it was quiet there for about a month, and then the last week we've gotten Antics and Calculate. Chaos just released today. Magia had a big release. Then you get all the Ubuntu's this next week. Then you get Fedora 29 right behind that. Elementary is going to drop any day. So.
It's Intimate there, so it's going to be a busy day for you looking at distros there, Derek.
Well, I'm not going to. There's no way I'm looking at all of them.
One positive
but I mentioned
thing I'll say about Calculate. I ran the KDE one this past week, and that thing takes, even the KDE one, it only takes 5 minutes to install. It's a really fast install.
Yeah, every time I install Calculate, you're right, it is a very quick install. I will say, though, every time I've installed Calculate, when you reboot the machine, you notice it's not running systemd because it takes a little longer to boot up than most Linux distributions.
Like standard Gen 2.
Not that OpenRC is bad. It's just, when you reboot the machine, that's just one thing I always notice is, man, it's taking like 30 seconds to boot up, where my Ubuntu or Mint or whatever, it's like 8 seconds. Not that those extra 20 seconds are going to kill you or anything. How often do you reboot the machine? But
20 seconds in computer time, though, is a lifetime. So,
well, I tell you what, if slow boot up times bothers you, do not ever install Linux Lite. That thing takes forever and a day to boot up. and I don't know why.
That reminds me, I tried Antics back in version 15, and then they upgraded. And I said, okay, I've got a separate home partition. I'll just install it, but not reformat the home partition, the usual thing. And it pretty much killed it. And I went to the forum, one of the last times I ever went to a Linux forum. And the guy who's developing it said, oh, yeah, I've changed how we do all the configuration files. Just do a complete reinstall or whatever. And he was spending all his time trying to take one more second off of how quickly it started up. And just put a bad taste in my mouth because, an extra 5 seconds starting up isn't as important as it actually starting up.
Well, the problem with Antics is it has a unique way of doing things anyway. The whole system in and of itself is a hodgepodge of old and new. It's a bunch of MEPIS and
so it's got the what if a bus hits the developer problem. That's another thing I use now to choose which distributions I use. If it's a one-person shop, I'm not that interested because what if they get hit by a bus?
Well, 95% of distros out there are going to run into a problem if the main diff gets hit by a bus. Like in a business environment, yeah, you want to be on something like Ubuntu or Fedora or something like that, SUSE. But like
Debian stable.
Like on my home machine, I don't care if it's a one-man garage distro because I'm not married to this thing anyway. I'm going to run it for a couple of weeks and then blow it away anyway for something else.
That's where we differ somewhat, Derek.
A couple of weeks? You're giving yourself some time, Derek? I mean, come on. You off more than anybody else.
Yeah.
It's not like, see, the real problem is if you got something like Antics that's based on Debian stable, even if something happens to the developer, you're still going to be good for as long as Debian stable supported.
Yeah, but because you got those repos that you're still connected to, yeah.
Yeah, but if you're doing like an independent distro and something happens to the developer, then...
You're talking about Solus or Void? Which one are we talking about?
Well, I got to Debian stable via Sparky Linux, and I always liked that, although the guy seems to maybe be overextending himself having so many different versions. But that worked very well for me. Sparky Linux was pretty nice, and he didn't add a whole bunch of extra stuff. So it did seem more like, Debian stable or testing or whatever.
Yeah.
I got a question, Derek. Can you add OpenBox to any distro?
Yeah.
That's the biggest feature I liked about Manjaro is the OpenBox.
Yeah. Manjaro should be in everybody's repos.
Once you get used to that, you're spoiled.
Yeah.
I'm actually planning on adding OpenBox to my own Ubuntu spin.
There's a guy in Vietnam. There's a guy in Vietnam that has a website, Ubuntu OpenBox. At least he did a year or two ago, and I ended up corresponding with him and did a base Ubuntu install, and then just the minimal OpenBox on top of it, making a point of using the no recommends option on apt-get, and it was very nice. OpenBox is great.
It is.
And using these minimal window managers, people were asking about, how can I be up and running in 15 minutes? Because if you run something like OpenBox or Fluxbox or i3 or whatever, you set up everything, you get your configs exactly the way you want it, put that thing on GitHub or GitLab or somewhere, and then all you've got to do the next time you reinstall any distro is just get your configs back, and you're just like that. You have your exact same OpenBox session again.
And you can run it alongside of whatever the distro came with.
Right. So I could wipe out Manjaro right now, and I could install Fedora or Gentoo or Ubuntu or whatever, and still have my exact configurations, on whatever distro I want. So,
which is basically what I did with your piece of Linux OS OpenBox and did for you. I got down your stuff and just incorporated it, rebuilt the ISO, job done. Well, within reason.
It is a completely different mindset than taking whatever desktop environment a particular distro gives you, because every distro is different. Every version of GNOME you see is different. Ubuntu's GNOME is not the same as Fedora's GNOME. It's not the same as Antergos GNOME or SUSE GNOME. So, you know, my open box is always my open box. It never changes. So
you could do the same thing with i3, transport it from one to the other.
Yeah, you just keep your configs.
Yep. And that's the other thing too. Like if you really like the setup of Manjaro OpenBox, but you don't want to use Manjaro anymore because it's unstable or whatever, you just copy that config over and you can use it on whatever system you want.
That was the one good thing that came out of trying Manjaro, is I learned about i3.
Yep. Yeah, Manjaro makes a great i3 edition for those wanting to get into i3. If you're looking for good distros to try out i3 for the first time, Manjaro, probably the best one. Arco, the main version of Arco, has a nice i3 and OpenBox session already installed. So,
if you don't like green, you have a problem getting rid of it all, though, if it's the Manjaro version. They configure everything for a nice, consistent look. If you don't like the look, you're in trouble.
Yeah, the i3 edition doesn't have as much green. It's mostly like a dark gray. It's kind of like the Arc theme, those that are familiar with that GTK theme. All the windows and terminals and everything, there's kind of like a dark gray. It's not bad. And the neat thing,
I gotta drop out. I'm gonna grab some lunch before I open the museum. So, yeah, next week or in a couple weeks.
Yep. Yeah. Next week, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a patrons only chat next Sunday, and then we'll be back hopefully the following Sunday for one of these. So, assuming nothing comes up, assuming I'm not working on a Sunday, which happened to me last week, but luckily I was able to still make this. So.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Chris. All right.
Bye,
somebody
Chris.
in the chat is asking, somebody in the chat quickly was asking me about my experience with Bunsen Labs. Bunsen Labs is great. Great open box configs. Matter of fact, if you just want their open box configs, it's all on GitHub if you want to try it out on whatever distro you're already running. Bunsen Labs is Debian stable. So
I tried it and liked it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's
a continuation of the old Crunchbang distro.
Yeah.
For those that used to run that, which I loved Crunchbang back in the day, but that's been dead for many years now.
Well, that's a case where the guys, it was a one-person deal, but the community picked up after him, right?
Yeah. He decided he didn't want to do it anymore, so they forked the project. Actually, they forked it a number of different times. Bunsen Labs was a fork of it. Crunchbang ++. It's another one. They're all basically the same thing, though. Debian stable with OpenBox, with a lot of the old Crunchbang scripts and stuff installed. Because this guy had some really nice stuff going on, some scripts that made it easy to change the theme and the locations of the panels and everything. It makes living in OpenBox a little easier, especially for newer users. Uh-oh. Okay. And I see, looking at the Distro Watch page, I had another release I wasn't aware of, UB-ports. Guess we had another Ubuntu Touch release. So for those of you wanting to play around on your phones with... I wonder how that project is going as far as... I mean, they're still calling it Ubuntu Touch, too, so I'm assuming Canonical gave the UB-ports guys the blessing to use their name still, the Ubuntu name, even though Canonical really has nothing to do with the project. So that's interesting. Not that familiar with it, though.
I'm picking my next hop.
Oh yeah, what you going to?
I don't know yet. I tried.
We'll help you pick.
I'm on Mint.
You want stable or rolling?
Huh?
You want something stable, or you want a rolling release again?
I want to be stable.
You want to go back to stable?
Yeah.
I just put mine on it, Dad.
How's MX?
MX is great.
MX is cool. MX is a great distro.
I don't want to go back to too much into a raw Debian because it really doesn't support all my hardware.
No, MX is Debian, but they make it really easy to install all your codecs and drivers and
Well,
Flash and fonts and stuff.
Debian has an ISO that has all the non-free stuff in it. It's just not official with quotes on it. You can get to it via their website.
Yeah, you can do all this on Debian anyway. Yeah. But MX
Although
makes
it had
easy
a whole
because
bunch of foreign language stuff in there that I had to yank out just from what they put in.
Yeah, MX makes it easy because when you install MX, you get done, then you have this little greeter that comes up and it just talks you through how to get all that. You just click a button. Yes, I want those multimedia codecs and it's done.
It's a real good one.
I was going to say if I use XFCE, MX is the only one I'm going to use.
Yeah, if I wanted a Debian-based distro, that's probably what I would use too, for sure. I mean, I like Xubuntu. I've run Xubuntu in the past. It's not bad, but yeah, MX is
what
really
kind of
nice.
team does MX got behind it?
Dolphin.
Dolphin? Yeah,
Dolphin
we've
also.
seen Dolphin on stream before.
Yeah, so
Dolphin's a good lad. Yeah, he's a good lad.
Yeah, funny guy. I like Dolphin.
He's a funny guy. Yeah, but he isn't on his own, you see, the MX. He's got quite a crew behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's 4 or 5. I think he said there's 4 or 5 other devs besides him.
Yeah,
right,
something like that. Yeah,
he's just the most visible, shall we say?
Right.
Maybe we'll go to a new kind of pain with MX.
Yeah, the problem with some of the small development teams is when you have the main dev. Yeah, some of them have teams around them, but a lot of the people around them are just helping him maintain the distro. They're not really developing anything. They're not programmers, for example. Mm-hmm. So kind of like the Void guy, again, who knows where he's at. They've been searching for him for over a year now. Is he alive? Is he dead?
He fell into the void.
Right. But that really held them back. Now the Void guys are trying to downplay it and say, we're still going. We still had other people here, but you guys weren't the ones doing a lot of the heavy lifting, Same thing with Solus. A lot of people tell me Solus is all right. They've got a team, but you went from 3.9 to 3.99 to 3.999 to 3.99999. Like, you're never getting into 4 without Ike, apparently. So,
well, this is why the lead dev in PC Linux OS, he's very ill. He's got cancer, as people may know. But he's already in the transition stage of offloading a lot of work that he used to do. He used to be the one that did every KDE package, every kernel update. But he's got this team now behind him where when he knows his time's limited and he's still working away, it's just going to be a transition and it's going to be quite smooth because he's already thought ahead of what's going to happen. He isn't just going to disappear. Well, he might, but if he does...
And the PC Linux OS dev, obviously, he's in a unique situation because obviously he's ill. He knows, he's going to have to get things straight for the project to live on after him. It's a little differently. Some of these guys, they just get burnt out or they get sick or die suddenly or go to jail or whatever happens to be the case for some of these projects, And
you're making Ubuntu sound pretty good.
And I'm not kidding. We've had open source projects that have died because the dev went to jail. So Riser FS.
Debian non-free isn't bad at all, but it is stable. If you want Debian stable, going with the non-free, you're not going to run into the driver problems I had when I used the official Debian stable ISO. With weird Wi-Fi or whatever. But you do have to, do a little bit extra.
If you want to go slightly different, go Debian. Debian's quite good.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive, Debian.
What else? If you want something stable, I mean, SUSE Leap is always good. OpenSUSE Leap.
No RPM junk.
No RPM.
Wow. Thank you very much, Dan.
Don't do PC Linux OS then, because it's RPM. So
RPM is okay.
Apt all day.
I can never get those to work right.
Although PC Linux OS is interesting because it's RPM based, but it uses the apt package manager, so you can still sudo apt install whatever.
Open source doesn't use RPM; it uses zipper.
Yeah, that's the package manager.
Yeah, that's the command line interface. Yeah.
Red
Yeah,
Hat
but it's
package
still
manager.
They're still using Red Hat package management. Yeah.
Yeah.
A silver lining I wanted to pull out.
I mean, technically, Fedora, I mean, it's using a different package manager. Well, I mean, they're using DNF for the command line.
Fedora uses
interface.
GNOME, don't they?
That's the main, yeah.
Yeah.
If you want vanilla GNOME.
Yeah,
No
that's-
GNOME.
Yeah, that's what Red Hat is really. I mean, they're all in on GNOME, so they're all in on GNOME, Systemd, and Flatpak, and they're all tightly integrated. And
I got the Fedora 28, and it had GNOME in it. And then I found your video on how to spruce it up with all the plugins. I went and got all the plugins, and when I was done with it, it looked just as nice as your version you showed online. But I'm like, my God, you got to do all this to make it work.
You know, I'm not a fan of GNOME. You guys know I'm not a fan of GNOME. But yeah, I installed half a dozen plugins, and it wasn't bad. You know, you just got to get rid of the default menu. You got to install a dash to dock or a dash to panel. You got, you know, a bunch of other extensions.
Fedora actually does tweak GNOME a little bit. I mean, if you use GNOME on, you know, like a stock Arch install, stock GNOME, you'll see, you'll appreciate actually how much Fedora's done to GNOME.
Yeah, but they've done a very little bit. I mean, it's very little. It's like if you talk about somebody that makes a really nice Arch, GNOME distro, Antergos GNOME. Now that's kind of tweaked out a little bit, and it looks good. Mainline Arch, bad GNOME.
The best GNOME that is
or Debian.
Or Debian.
Yeah, but if you're installing GNOME on Debian, I'm assuming Debian stable. I mean, what version of GNOME is that? That's like 20 versions.
20 probably.
Hey, if it works, who cares?
Mint makes a Debian version. I wonder how that is.
Linux Mint, the LMD.
Yeah.
LMDE.
LMDE3.
Yeah.
How
that works, if you want stability, I would stick with their Ubuntu-based distro because that's the main distro. That's what they spent all their time.
That's what I'm on now.
Yeah, so I wouldn't switch if you're.
And it's really rock solid. I mean, everything in it works fine 100% of the time until it wants to crash.
The Debian edition is not as stable. It's not going to be.
It's never going to be because that's their. What if Ubuntu goes away distro?
Yeah. That's their backup plan. That's all it is.
Well, I know that.
Yeah.
I prefer the Ubuntu one anyway because the Debian 9 stable kernel is just so old at this point.
Right.
About 4.9, yeah, it is old.
And that's the problem I have. I have the latest. I have the latest hardware, all Team Red.
Okay, all Android. Okay, cool.
If you're not trying to play the latest and greatest games on Linux with Proton.
Yeah, you guys been enjoying Proton?
Not really.
Yeah.
Well, I know Darkwing. He's a big time gamer. So
I don't know what you're inferring.
What all has been working for you? What have you been disappointed that's not quite working with Proton?
For me, Warframe.
Yeah. There was actually some news today. I noticed that the DVXK.
Yeah, there's a new version.
There's a new.
DVXK
It sure is, and supposedly it's supposed to fix a few things that will allow a few more games that weren't quite working in Proton to now work. They mentioned a couple. I know one of them was Witcher 3.
Yep.
There were a couple of big ones. I think Overwatch was also having some problems that now should be fixed.
Yeah, the biggest ones were games that relied on .NET, the .NET frameworks installer. You couldn't install, and a lot of those have been fixed because I know I have a few games installed right now that rely on the .NET framework, and a lot of those are actually, like playable. Novel idea.
Playable. 8 frames a second, but you can play.
It's on 3.16-1 now on Steam, I think. Proton, the beta.
Yeah.
No Man's Sky is running really good.
Gonna try probably today the new. If it'll work on my Call of Duty installs.
Yeah, all the Call of Duties I think should work fine because those were all working fine under Wine anyway, weren't they? Before Proton. I know a lot of people
didn't work really well for me.
Yeah.
Maybe
So,
my hardware, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of frames per second you'd get under Proton, but I know the game should run. So.
There are a few games that do better and some that do worse. It's horses for courses. It depends what kind of game engine they're using and optimizations they've used.
I was going to say it's not even really. I'm looking at this the Steam Play compatibility report, so whatever you want to call it. Modern Warfare 4 is a platinum. World at War is a gold. And from what I'm seeing, the rest are either borked or a bronze. So
yeah, I play Modern Warfare 3, so that one is borked.
According to the site, it's a silver right now.
Yeah, the Steam Play compatibility report too is interesting because we had all those games that were whitelisted, right? Out of the what was it, something like 25, 30 games that were supposedly whitelisted, but when you look at the ratings on them, not all of those are platinum. Some of them you go and read the reports, and people are, game doesn't work, borked, so they still have some bugs to fix on the supposed whitelisted games, much less the ones that they haven't given their official blessing to yet. So.
Yeah, the biggest thing I've seen with a lot of those though is sometimes it's the distro specific.
They need the updated driver.
Well, it's like I'm looking at one for The Last Remnant. It says doesn't start up fully, blank screen with sound. They're running Interrogos, but they're running on a NVIDIA 390 kernel driver. Why would you not be on the latest?
Yeah, you got to be on the latest driver.
Valve is gonna think. Newest driver, newest kernel, we're basing on Ubuntu or Debian in their SteamOS case. So,
well, it's going to be something. Yeah, it's going to be something they have to live with at least for a couple of years. Until we get the next Ubuntu LTS. Really, until 2004, you're going to keep getting. Well, it doesn't work because you don't have the right kernel, you don't have the right driver.
Then just looking at some of these, it's like. Because people forget it's a compatibility layer, there's going to be more overhead. So, like the graphics card they're running, like one guy's running on a 545 GT. Yeah. So you're talking like 6 gen cards old at this point.
And of course, Ubuntu being kind of the dominant distro, especially on Steam. Do the Steam guys, do they have a PPA to make some of this simpler? I mean, for the folks that need to update to the latest driver or the latest kernel, I mean, do they have any kind of a easy path
for the driver? There should be PPAs for the Mesa, and there should be a PPA for the newest.
Yeah, but NVIDIA drivers, PPA for NVIDIA drivers aren't actually the newest. I like a couple of versions back.
Yeah, they're still it's because they're not running I think it's the 410 driver. They're still running the 396. Right. Driver, which is considered the stable version. Whereas the one that ships with 1804, I think is 398.7 or 84 or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is where we get back to new users. Okay, I want to play my Steam game. You're telling me to install a new NVIDIA driver through a PPA. I reboot the machine. I get that black screen. Oh, looks like I broke my machine. I'm reinstalling.
Yeah,
this is what's going to happen. So
is it worth all the trouble just to pretend shoot other people?
Absolutely
100%.
Let's see, I first did gaming. I did the original adventure game on a General Electric mainframe and a deck writer that's a terminal that prints in 1980. Kind of got tired of it then. I got to see the original Fortran source code for that game, and I was rather put off by the comments in the source. They were very disrespectful toward the player. Kind of put me off on gaming.
That's just most dev comments in general.
Yeah. I did just download out of order from the dev repos, and that's enough for me, really.
All
right. Very cool.
It's a lot of work to get that gaming going.
now Proton has more applications potentially than just gaming. That's what makes this interesting. I mean, we're all worried about the gaming, but who's to say you couldn't do, other kinds of programs? Yeah, other Windows
Photoshop.
Right, exactly. If Steam offered to sell me Adobe Photoshop and guaranteed it would work in Proton, absolutely. Why wouldn't I?
Current Valve has enough money; they could probably throw it at Adobe and be like, "Hey, make this work."
Yeah,
absolutely. I have a comment on that comment Andrew said about comments in code. I don't remember which OS it was, but I read that in one OS, it was some closed source OS, I don't know which one, maybe even Windows, a guy asked a woman to write him a comment.
Okay, we got some strange noise going on. Yeah, I muted him for a second. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Continue, Big Pod. We had some issues there.
Comments are really, really funny thing when programming. You can see from cursing to
especially in Linux
proposal stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, I listened to one guy who was helping develop Windows, that the variable names for Windows, they're mostly bad words, curses and stuff like that. And before they actually ship it out, they have to fix everything. It takes quite a time to fix all the curses.
Yeah, the F word appears something like 60 or 70 times, I think, in the kernel, just in comments. Probably comments Linus left. So, yeah, I mean, that's
getting
normal.
a real sociopath vibe here.
Don't watch any of my videos then.
Duly noted.
Yeah, I think I commented on one of Darkwind's videos one time. I started his video at work, and I get 60 seconds into it, and he had already dropped like 4.
You have my sympathies. I already know what
He dropped like 4 F-bombs, and I commented, you know what? I'm going to finish this at the house. I better wait.
I can be civil at times.
Happens. Everybody makes a mistake.
No, that's just my content in general.
I mean, with being civil, everybody makes a mistake, and if you can be civil.
I'll tell you, if you don't game and you have old hardware from the pawn shop or eBay and you don't game, it makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah, but I mean, you could still game on. You could still game on some older machines. You just got to pick and choose what kind of games you got to go more old school.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm gaming on 2 old machines that are, I think, 3rd gen i5s. So I mean, those are 5-year-old machines.
That's actually really good.
Retro gaming. I mean, it's big right now. A lot of people are revisiting those games they played 20, 30 years ago, and
some of us just call those games.
Yeah.
Personally, I couldn't live on really old machines, like even 5 or 6 years old hardware. For me, is a bit.
Big Pod, you're echoing.
I'm echoing.
No.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed Big Pod with any kind of echo.
Anybody got their sound turned off on YouTube as well?
Yeah, make sure you got the browser muted.
I sometimes hear some echo, like from someone, I don't know who.
Yeah. That sounds pretty good.
Old hardware is really, I don't know. I just can't deal with it. I like newer hardware, and that's why I bought myself basically the newest hardware I could with this laptop, like 8 gen.
Yeah. As somebody that usually has older machines and is not much of a gamer and was on Linux before Steam, a lot of those free and open source games that are in everybody's repos, they're really fun. I don't know if you guys have ever, if you like shooters, Open Arena, kind of a Quake clone, not a bad game. If you like strategy, turn-based strategy,
Sure.
Battle for Westnoth is Zero AD. Well, now Zero AD is going to need a good machine.
Yeah.
Battle for Westnoth is great. There's a lot of good
American
terminal-based
Truck
games.
Simulator.
Well,
Yeah, Truck Simulator works really well on my Intel stuff, actually.
I was gonna say another one is Warzone 2100.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Warzone,
great
yeah.
game.
Yeah, Warzone's good.
Was it Mega Glest or Glest or whatever was another one.
I used to play all the shooters too. There was one called Sauerbraten that's a blast to play. It's really
Xenotic is the other one.
Xenotic, yeah, it's great. Yeah, sure is. Yeah.
Which, FYI, for those that want a quick install, sudo snap install Xenotic.
Yeah, absolutely, because it is such a hefty download from the. If you go to their website.
Oh yeah, it's a hefty download either way, be it from the repo or from the website.
Yeah,
that would be
It's better from their website because it contains all the binaries for every OS.
Yep.
You don't
That's
have to
another
install
thing.
anything, just run it.
And being on Linux and doing these older kind of retro game, these smaller games, these free and open source games, like we're talking about Proton, and you can play these Windows games now. So I thought about trying one for the channel. Everybody told me to check out Doom, Doom 2016. And I went and looked at the hardware requirements. I need over 60 gigs of hard drive space for that game. And I'm like, who the hell has 60 gigs of hard drive space just laying around for a game?
That's minimal now. I kid you not. That is the average.
US games have it because they keep all 4K assets and 1080p assets all in there. So you have 4K directly from the hard drive instead of calculating every single pixel from 1080p picture.
Now I've got multiple drives.
Are really, really, really big.
Derek?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for my first video chat ever. It's been fun. I installed Zoom at 9 o'clock this morning, but my dogs need to go out, so I'm gonna.
Yes, sir.
It's everybody. I enjoyed it.
It's actually time to kill the stream anyway. It's afternoon, so thanks for
hours.
stopping by, Andy. Any last word you want to send us out? We'll go ahead and get a last word from everybody.
Just enjoyed it. Fun discussion. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, come back and see us. And Big Pod, give us a last word, sir.
Thank you for having us, DT, and thanks to everyone else who came.
Yeah. All right, appreciate it. Yep, and I know it's kickoff time. Those of us in the U.S. I try to end these before the game start. I don't know if that's where Andy was going, or but yeah, I usually try to kill these right at that time. So, Climby,
no, it's really the dogs. I don't watch sports.
Okay,
you're still here.
I know.
I don't know how to turn it off. That's the problem. I say I installed and I don't know how to get out.
Bottom right, leave meeting.
Yeah.
There it is. Thank you very much.
All right, you're very welcome. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Ben.
Ben joined, right?
Hello, Ben. You joined us.
Welcome, Ben.
Sorry.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. You're joining as we're leaving.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. Climby, give us a last word.
Yeah, always enjoy the streams.
Right.
Fun topic fun topics we talk about as always. And I just wanted to say I've been messing around with flat packs in Chromium OS, and I gotta say flat packs rock. So.
Okay.
You actually got that thing installed.
Yep.
Wow.
On it right now.
Yeah, I was okay with what he said about Flatpak, but Chromium OS, okay.
You can blame Popey.
Yeah,
okay.
You blame Popey. We're going to ping him like mad next week.
Yeah.
Wow. And you guys never want to play around with like Arch-based distros on the Biddle Challenge, but you want to do Chromium OS. I mean, really.
It was a change.
I was going to say the backup distro was Chakra, so it's Arch-ish.
And that would have been so much easier to fool with than, okay. All right. And, of course, last words, Darkwing.
I am actually with you right now, Derek. I'm on Manjaro, but I'm using the Jade desktop.
How's that working for you?
That has been an experience. Actually, most of my machines are running it, except for the Surface Pro, which is running actually Ubuntu chilling right now. But
I've had people ask me about it. Check it out. I haven't taken a look at it, but
go into it with a completely different mindset on how the desktop works. That's all I can tell you.
Okay. Sounds like it's working for you.
Yeah, it is. But
all right. Cool. All right, Allie, last words?
Yeah, been a great stream as always, Derek. You know, enjoy yourselves, man. Have a very good afternoon and evening.
Yeah.
Afternoon. Nice evening over here. So,
absolutely. Appreciate
Loved it, man. See you next week.
Dan, any last thoughts?
Yeah, thank you for the Manjaro thoughts and stuff like that and the distro recommendations. I was happy to be here today and talk about my problems.
Yeah.
And get some solutions.
And maybe next time you'll be on something, a different distro, and hopefully it'll be working better for you.
Can you copy the files out of Manjaro and paste them into something else?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just to
.config. Just go with the terminal inside your home directory. Go to .config file and just copy OpenBox directory.
In the config file in the home.
Yeah, there's a .config folder. Yeah.
.config folder, and then it's
Gotcha. We're
There's
going
an
right after the stream.
Yeah, there's an OpenBox folder in the .config folder. Copy that thing and save it.
All right. Thanks, guys. You guys are a world of help.
All right.
I couldn't possibly type all this in the chat stream.
And Kaizoku, you there? I know he was having some issues earlier.
I'm still here.
All right. Last words.
Thank you for having me. And smoking/vaping is dangerous for health. Please don't stop or wait.
All right. And Silent Robot.
Always a pleasure, Derek. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Sorry I had to break off earlier. I had guests pop in quickly. So
that's fine. And it's strange seeing your name on the screen and not the avatar, the robot avatar. So.
Oh, I took it off of Zoom. So
yeah.
You know.
Well, that was kind of a neat effect. I kind of like that.
I might put it back on then.
Yeah. I need to do something neat like that. That way, it's just not a name on the screen. All right, Ben, your first and last words, sir.
Well, okay. Well, everyone knows me as Mr. Gentoo for sure, so that's what I'm currently running with the Cinnamon Desktop and XFCE. And if you're looking for a great XFCE theme, check out Black Box. It's a blue and black theme. And so, yeah, that's what I'm running right now. And later today, I am going to try and do a Linux from scratch stream to show how I do that. Anyway, so thanks for a great stream, Derek, and I will hope to see you guys later this afternoon.
Yeah, and Linux from scratch stream. You're going to live stream. Linux from scratch. Good luck.
Yeah, I've tried to do that a couple times in the past. It has been very difficult, but I want to try and finish it this time, and I'll hope to see you guys later for that.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me. Of course, I got to give my last word. The show was made possible by Ansem, Carlos, David, Leo, or Rob. Also brought to you by all those fine ladies and gentlemen. Their names on the screen. If you enjoyed this video, support the channel. DistroTube over on Patreon. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Peace.
Peace to you.
Bye, DD.
Bye,
guys.
Okay.